hello again. Let me just get this sellotape off here because this has travelled from Orlando. This particular one, McAdams Canadian, is one of the miniatures that I picked up from Total Wine & More, just by Mall at Millennia in Orlando when I was on holiday earlier this year. And I think I say this every single time, but by God, I wish I was back there. So this was a massive 99 cents for the miniature. You can probably hear from the plastic. And you are looking at, for a 75cl bottle at Total Wine, $8, and now that was for a plastic bottle, and for a 1.75 litre, a not inconsiderable $15.99. So top end stuff again from Canada here. Very little information I could find out about this. I think this is exclusive to Total Wine & More. I couldn't find it anywhere else. It does say on the label this whiskey is at least 36 months old. Okay, fair enough. In terms of where it's from, so this is imported and bottled by McAdams Canadian Limited, Princeton, Minnesota. Now I did find it on the net. It looks as though it's owned by a company called Prestige Beverage Group. Don't know much about them. I think they're a distribution company. My guess is that they are a company probably based in Minnesota that is buying in generic stock, bottling it, putting a label on it and selling it out relatively cheap for a profit with not much thought to it. Now, McAdams also do a McAdams Light, which is a light Canadian whiskey. So this is 40%. The light is 27% ABV. And on their front label also talks about its Canadian whiskey and natural flavours, which sounds a little bit suspect. Why you'd want a light whiskey, I've no idea. I don't think it's like a low in calories or anything like that. I think it's literally light in flavour. So depending on what this is like, it could taste like tap water if it's a lighter version of a whiskey that's already pretty thin on the ground. But in terms of the makeup of this, no idea. In terms of where the distillery is, no idea. Who knows? It's a mystery whiskey. Sometimes we can be surprised. As we found with the American whiskies, that the cheaper end of American whiskies is actually far more palatable than the cheaper end of Scotch. But that's American whiskies. Canadian whiskies have got like completely different rule set altogether. They're a lot less stringent with their rules. Like I say, with Canadian whiskies, 9.09% of a Canadian whiskey can actually be something else completely different. It could be bourbon, it could be Scotch, it could be sherry, it could be cranberry juice, it could be anything, and you can still bottle it as Canadian whiskey. So, let's see what this is like. I'll be honest, don't really have my hopes up. Not $8 a bottle, but you never know. So 40%, quite thin on the nose and quite sort of paint thinnery. Not overpowering, but that's the dominant thing. And sort of like swimming pools as well. It's slightly chlorine-y, but it's not. It's like walking through the front door of a swimming pool, like a leisure centre. So it's when you're at reception and the swimming pool's at the back and you get this distant waft of chlorine, but you've not yet got into the changing rooms and into the swimming pool, so it's not full on in your nose. It's like as you walk into the building, almost, it's got automatic doors, and as you walk up to the automatic doors, they open and you get this waft of distant chlorine. It's not full on. Quite weird specific analogy, but that's the best I can do with that. But yeah, it's slightly chlorine-y and slightly paint thinner. And not a great deal else, to be perfectly honest. No, nothing. Very, very little. There's a bit of sweetness. There's a bit of like fudge. It's about all it's got going for it. It's a bit of fudge. There's a mouthful of fudge, but again, it's kind of like diluted fudginess. The mouthfeel is not too bad actually. It's dangerous. It's wavering dangerously close to thin, almost non-existent. but there's enough of a richness to the mouthfeel that at least it lingers for a little bit. It's kind of fudgy, you swallow, it buggers off. The palate is definitely better than the nose, thank goodness. There's nothing to it, there's absolutely nothing to it. In fact, the aftertaste of it almost tastes like a cheap rum. It's a cheap rum, slightly demerara sugar. It's less whiskey and more cheap rum. There's very, very little to this. There's almost not enough on it that's going to cut through a cocktail. It's going to get lost if you put Coke with it. If you put ice with it, you're not going to taste it. You don't even get much of a kick. You don't even get much of an alcohol burn to it. So if you put ice with it, you're not going to taste anything, but you're not really going to get a kick. It would almost just be like drinking ice water, and then about 5 glasses down, you start getting tipsy. There's nothing to it. There really is nothing to it, which makes me wonder what the hell the lighter version tastes like at 27%. It's got to taste like nothing, unless the natural flavour that they're adding improves it, because I can't imagine that it's going to be much. I can't imagine that if you knock it down to 27%, that you're going to be able to taste any of the very little flavour that's in there. So if they're adding natural flavours in there, it may taste even better than this, because they're actually upping the flavour content in there by adding a load of other stuff. That is there with Hague Club and Ballantine's and a couple of others that I've had, where there is just nothing to it. There's nothing at all. Like I say, there's a bit of fudginess, which gets a little bit cloying after a while. If you like sweet whiskies, it's almost liqueur sweet, almost. So if you've got somebody that drinks liqueur whiskies, but they've never drunk a whiskey before, that's probably the bridge between liqueur whiskies and whiskey. But who out there is going to be that? If you're drinking whiskey liqueurs, you're probably drinking whiskey anyway. There's nothing, there's bugger all in that. Absolutely bugger all. Plastic bottle, $8 a bottle for a full size. That is exactly what I expected it to taste like. Just nothing. There's dick all in there. There really isn't. I know I'd rather go for the Goodrum and Works. So yes, you can get yourself a 1.75 litre at $16, which I think's in a plastic bottle as well, and knock shocks off. Because that's about all I've got to say to it. Anyway, I think after this we've got 4 Canadians left after this. So nearly done. Not many Canadians, but it has been quite interesting actually. So I shall see you at the next one. Cheers.